Most tanks do not look dirty because the water is bad. Most tanks look dirty because the background looks cheap. Bright walls behind the glass kill depth in seconds. Cords, filters, and reflections ruin the whole illusion. One cheap fix makes the tank look cleaner almost instantly. The item is a $2 matte black poster board sheet. A matte black vinyl sheet works the same way. The sheet goes on the outside, back glass only. Nothing goes inside the water for this trick. That matters because the fish stay completely untouched. The tank starts looking deeper the second light stops bouncing. Tiny particles also become less visible against black. Equipment lines stop screaming for attention from the back. The whole tank starts looking sharper and more expensive. Cheap tanks suddenly stop looking flat and washed out. This is why stores use dark backgrounds so often. The contrast makes the fish and plants pop harder. The water looks clearer because the scene looks controlled. The trick is stupidly simple but brutally effective. First, clean the outside back glass completely dry. Dust trapped behind the sheet looks sloppy fast. Any streak left back there will show through light. Use a towel until the rear glass looks spotless, then measure the full back panel edge to edge. Cut the black sheet just a little oversize. That extra margin helps cover the frame cleanly. Tape the corners first and smooth the center later. Do not use glossy black if the room is bright. Glossy material reflects windows and kills the effect. Matte black absorbs light and hides distractions better. That is the whole reason this trick works. The tank will instantly look more intentional and clean. Even low-cost tanks start looking far less cluttered. Fish colors stand out harder against the dark field. Green plants stop blending into a bright background mess. Substrate lines start looking deeper and more defined. Wood and rocks also gain way more visual contrast. The entire scape feels cleaner without changing the scape. That is the beauty of this setup. Nothing inside the aquarium needs to be rebuilt. No chemical fix is needed for this transformation. No expensive light upgrade is required for day one. No new filter is needed to start seeing results. The visual jump happens because the eye reads contrast. Bright junk behind the tank reads as visual dirt. Dark negative space reads as depth and clarity. That is why this trick feels stronger than it costs. The difference usually shows up in under 10 minutes. A weak tank suddenly starts looking photo ready. A cluttered tank suddenly looks more premium. A normal community tank starts looking more intentional. This is also one of the safest upgrades possible. Nothing changes in water chemistry at all. Nothing changes in temperature or flow. Nothing touches the fish or the plants. It is pure visual control from outside the glass. That is why beginners can use it immediately. That is also why advanced keepers still use it. The trick does not replace real tank maintenance. Cloudy water still needs the real cause fixed. Dirty glass still needs to be wiped down. Bad stocking still makes a tank look chaotic. But a huge number of tanks are not truly dirty. They just look cheap because the backdrop is wrong. That mistake makes decent water look worse than it is. That mistake makes good fish disappear into the room. That mistake makes every cord steal attention. That mistake makes a clean setup feel messy. The black sheet fixes all of that at once. The before and after usually looks completely unfair. This is where most owners stop too early. They slap on any black sheet and call it done. Then glare, gaps, and crooked edges ruin the result. The exact placement makes a massive difference here. The light angle also changes how clean it feels. The full setup guide in the description covers that. It shows the exact material and exact cut style. It shows how to place the sheet cleanly fast. It also shows the light position that sells the effect. That missing detail is what makes the tank look premium. Without that detail, the trick looks half finished. With that detail, the tank looks 10 times cleaner. The biggest mistake is leaving gaps around the back panel. Tiny bright edges instantly expose the trick as cheap. That is why the sheet should slightly overlap the frame. A clean black block looks far stronger than a perfect cut. Another mistake is using wrinkled paper from a drawer. Wrinkles catch light and make the back look dirty. Flat material always wins for this setup. Poster board, foam board, or matte vinyl work best. Thin trash bags look glossy and terrible on camera. Another mistake is taping only the top edge. That leaves waves and weird shadows behind the tank. Secure the corners and smooth the middle outward. The goal is a flat wall of darkness. That is what creates the clean illusion. Next mistake is keeping the light aimed at the room. A forward blast creates glare on the front glass. Glare makes even clean tanks look dusty and cheap. The light should favor the inside scape, not the room. A slight downward angle usually looks much cleaner. That reduces front reflection from walls and windows. Room lighting matters more than people think. A bright lamp behind the viewer can kill this trick. Open curtains can do the same thing. Strong side glare exposes every tiny particle floating around. That makes the water look dirtier than it is. Turn off the strongest room glare before judging results. Then watch how much cleaner the tank suddenly looks. Another mistake is leaving the back glass filthy inside. Algae film on the rear panel weakens the whole effect. A simple inside wipe before adding the sheet helps a lot. No fancy tool is needed for that pass. Just remove the obvious haze and build up first. Then the black backdrop looks far richer. Another killer is exposed gear floating in the center line. The background helps, but placement still matters. Move heaters and intakes toward darker rear corners. Hide tubing behind wood, plants, or hardscape when possible. The tank looks cleaner when lines stop crossing the scene. This trick works because it reduces visual noise brutally fast. Visual noise is what makes most tanks feel dirty. Not every problem is actually a water problem. A tank can test fine and still look awful. Usually the eye is reacting to clutter and reflection. That is why this cheap fix feels so dramatic. It attacks what the eye hates first. It makes the whole image look more controlled. It also makes fish movement stand out harder. Bright fish glow more against a darker field. Silver fish stop blending into room reflections. Dark fish gain a cleaner silhouette around the body. Plants look denser and healthier with better separation. Wood texture also looks more deliberate and expensive. Even simple aquascapes get a serious upgrade. This is huge for people with budget tanks. A cheap tank does not need to look cheap. It needs contrast, clean lines, and less distraction. That is exactly what this trick gives. The setup can also improve videos and shorts. Phone cameras love dark, uncluttered backgrounds. Auto exposure behaves better when the background is controlled. That means fewer washed out clips of the fish. That means more dramatic close-ups with less effort. A tank that looks cleaner also feels calmer. The room starts reading it as a finished display. That changes how impressive the whole setup feels. This is why many people think a new light fixed it. Sometimes the real change was just the background control. The same logic works on breeder tanks too. It also works on shrimp tanks and nano setups. Small tanks benefit even more from reduced background chaos. Without the trick, tiny tanks look cluttered fast. With the trick, tiny tanks look deeper and cleaner. This is also one of the cheapest upgrades to test. $2 is enough to see if it works. That makes it perfect for a fast before and after. The guide in the description goes further than this. It shows the exact light angle for cleaner water visuals. It shows how to hide cords without rebuilding the tank. It shows the background material that looks best on camera. It also shows the common mistakes that flatten the effect. Those details are what separate decent from premium. That difference is where the tank starts looking expensive. The sheet is cheap, the final look does not have to be. Now comes the part most people miss completely. A black background alone is not the full finish. The tank also needs a clean front viewing path, and that means the front glass must stay reflection friendly. Fingerprints and haze on the front kill the illusion. One quick wipe makes the whole trick hit harder. Use a clean cloth and remove the oily film. Do not leave streaks across the viewing center. The cleaner the front panel looks, the stronger the depth. Now the fish start floating against darkness instead of clutter. Now the substrate line starts looking more dramatic. Now the tank stops blending into the wall behind it. This is where the clean look really snaps into place. A lot of owners also run lights too white and flat. That can make the tank feel sterile and harsh. A slightly warmer balance often looks richer and cleaner. Not dimmer, just less hospital looking on the eye. That makes wood and plants look more natural. It also stops the glass from feeling icy. Another secret is keeping the waterline visually clean. Hard mineral marks up top ruined premium tank looks. That little white crust destroys the whole effect fast. A quick wipe there matters more than most think. A cleaner top edge makes the whole display sharper. This is why details matter after the sheet goes on. The cheap trick opens the door. The finishing passes make the result believable. That is how a basic tank starts looking expensive. That is how clearer looking water gets sold visually. Again, this is not fake magic or filter powder. This is visual control working in your favor. The brain sees less clutter and reads more clarity. The brain sees more contrast and reads more depth. The brain sees hidden gear and reads better maintenance. That is why the result feels stronger than the price. A bad background can make clean water look mediocre. A smart background can make decent water look polished. That is the whole game behind this trick. The tank does not need more random decorations. The tank does not need brighter chaos everywhere. The tank needs stronger visual discipline. That starts with the back panel and the light. Then it gets locked in with small cleanup moves. This is exactly where most people waste money. They buy new gear instead of fixing the image. They chase expensive upgrades before fixing the obvious. They blame the water before blaming reflections. They blame the fish before blaming the background. That is why this cheap fix embarrasses bigger purchases. The tank suddenly looks cleaner without touching the stock. It suddenly looks deeper without adding more hardscape. It suddenly looks sharper without swapping the filter. That is the kind of upgrade worth copying. And it is easy to repeat on almost any setup. Community tank, shrimp cube, planted tank, or budget starter kit. The same principle keeps paying off everywhere. Dark background, cleaner angles, less visible clutter. That formula makes tanks look far more premium. For the strongest result, the order matters too. Rear glass, clean first. Black sheet cut and mounted second. Light angle corrected third. Front glass wiped clean fourth. Gear lines hidden as much as possible last. That exact sequence matters more than people think. Doing it out of order weakens the final image. Doing it right creates the 10 times cleaner look. That is the version most people never fully reach. The full guide in the description closes that gap. It gives the exact setup order step by step. It gives the best material choices for different tank sizes. It gives the best light direction for less glare. It gives the exact mistakes that make tanks look cheap. It also gives the add-ons that boost the clean effect. Those little details are what viewers notice instantly. That is what makes the tank look premium on camera. That is what makes guests stare at it longer. That is what makes ordinary setups look much cleaner. A $2 sheet starts the transformation. The right setup finishes it properly. That is how a normal tank stops looking average. That is how a cheap fix creates an expensive result.